Hey, welcome back. Today I'm going to tell you the 5 things that changed the game for me with Meta Ads from a business perspective. Not like in the platform, the little settings, but more like the mentality and the processes and the way that I was looking at Meta Ads and looking at my business that made a huge difference for me. So my first business, I took it from 0 to 60K months in about a year and a half to 2 years. But I had a team of people, so I built up to, I think 69,000 was my largest month. But I had to pay people, so my margins weren't that great and my hourly rate was terrible. I was working all the time. So in 2022, I took a sabbatical in Rio de Janeiro. It was so good. And then I rebuilt my business as a consulting business. So now it's basically just me, and I built anywhere from 30 to 60,000 in a month. It only took me about 6 months to rebuild that business, and a lot of that is just because of these 5 main things that I have figured out. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first thing is I really had to decide I wanted to be the best. I'm very competitive. I'm not a shark like a lot of the people in the industry, but I am super competitive. And I thought if I'm gonna do it like to the very best of my ability. And that was really game changing for me because it pushed me. Even now, I push myself to learn. And I would say I'm like top 3% now, maybe, maybe even higher, I don't know. But I'm really good, but there are still areas that I can improve in. So I think that's the first thing. If you are a business owner and you're watching this video, you probably don't resonate with that at all. But what you can resonate with is if you want to have wild success from ads, like you want to be able to push that publish button and make, 5, 6, 7x ROAS, and you want to do that consistently at scale, go ahead and commit to that goal. Everything with ads is possible. It does require a lot of work, but their ads are so scalable and they're such a huge resource to growing a business. So go ahead and commit to what you actually want. So that's number 1. And don't worry, I know that's a little fluffy, but I think that's important for me, for my mentality, but we're gonna get into some more nitty-gritty things that you can actually apply. So the second thing is I started doing weekly iterations. I called them weekly deviations from my monthly strategy. So I would zoom out and I would media plan monthly, which would allow me to kind of like keep myself grounded and like always going toward the client goals, right? But then I knew that that wasn't operable. Like I couldn't seem to get from like a monthly media plan into coming into the office every day, opening my laptop and knowing what to do. So a lot of times I would just kind of get frozen, or sometimes I would just be doing a bunch of things that were totally irrelevant whenever I would look back at the monthly media plan. I was just kind of like in hyperactive mode, like optimizing and things. So that really helped me to start doing weekly action plans, weekly deviations from my monthly strategy. And so some of the things I would do were iterations on ads, and I would get really granular, more granular than you might think is valid or valuable. So I would pull up the ads, I would look at them, I would sit with like 5 to 10 minutes of thinking time, and I would look at the stats and I would think, why is this ad doing better than this one? And I would think through not just one possibility, but I would try to think through 3 or 4 or 5 possibilities for why that ad might be doing better than the others. And then I would try to take all of my ads a little bit further in that direction for the week. So I might iterate on my hook a little bit. I might use the same ad copy in other places. I might take the theme of my video script and put it in the ad copy. If there's social proof, maybe I would try to add more social proof. I would just try to go one tiny step further. And I would try to get that executed by Tuesday so I could get the data by, Friday, Saturday, and repeat that every week. So that was a huge learning point for me to actually just start taking tons of action, but not necessarily big actions, small actions. And that made a huge difference for my ability to drive performance from Meta Ads. So the third thing is huge, and I heard it worded this way at a women's mastermind event that I went to, and I think it's so brilliant. Basically, you have to build your offer for cold audiences. If you want to do well with paid ads, it's people who have probably never heard of your business before, or if you're running ads like I was for clients, people that are seeing your ads that you're putting out there into the world for your clients, they've never probably heard of your client before. And if they have, then it's not actually a cold audience. You're playing more of a warm retargeting play, which is fine. But like the real value of social media is to get out there in front of net new people who have never heard of you before, right? And then to sell those people on your product or service. Most advertisers out there have a really good offer for warm traffic. but it's so much harder to sell to cold traffic. And people get a little bit addicted to the warm, right? The organic traffic, the direct, the organic Instagram followers, right? And so if you really want to move out of that, and you have to make that decision, it can't just be something that you're like, oh, maybe I want to. You have to decide, like, do you want to move your business outside of just warm audiences? And if you do, just know that it's, number one, absolutely possible to build your offers stronger so they really resonate with cold audience. And number two, if you do that, your offer becomes so much more scalable with new people who are going to be excited about hearing about your brand or product, or your client's brand or product. So building your offers for cold traffic and understanding the difference between that and warm traffic, it was a huge game changer for me whenever I started thinking about that. If you're an ad buyer, sometimes it's easy to just wanna like be in the platform, you know? But I'm telling you, if you really wanna have success and you wanna scale businesses and therefore scale your own and scale your earning potential, you have to be good at more than just setting up ads and tweaking the ad. You have to understand the big picture with the offer, the flow, the business, all of that. Number three, I learned how to build offers for cold traffic. I'm still learning that. It's like an infinite learning cycle, but the better that you can get at that, the more ROI you'll drive from meta ads and the more scalable your business is going to be accordingly. Number four, I actually hear Russell Brunson say this a lot. Not sure how you feel about him. I feel like people are kind of polarized with him nowadays. But he says you're only one funnel away from making your next $1 million. And I think he's speaking mainly to people who have never made $1 million, and that seems like a ton of money to them, you know? And this is so true for ads as well. You're only one ad away or one offer away from changing the game with your ROI. About 2 weeks ago, I was working with one of my clients and they had a webinar. And we had signed a contract with an influencer to do this webinar with us, and he had agreed to do some content for the webinar, and then we had agreed to run some ads for that and to put some spend behind it. So they sent us the videos, we launched them on meta ads, and the cost per lead was over $100. Normally we see like, 10 to 15 max, right? Sometimes as low as like 5. So I was like, what are we gonna do? Because we signed the contract that we're gonna spend this money, so we have to spend it no matter what. But I talked to the team and I'm like, okay, can we get this influencer to get us a few tweaks? And we requested just a few changes to the script. It was the same influencer, same background, same clothes, same everything, except for tweaking the script just a little bit and the way he was presenting the information. And we relaunched the video and it literally had under $5 cost per lead. It looked so similar to an untrained eye, but to a trained eye, it was very different content, right? And this is the power, that was 20x the results. And we had hundreds of leads after that. So that is just the power of taking a second to look at your ads and thinking about your offer and the value that you're building and knowing that you can change the game with your ROI and the scalability of your ads with just some small tweaks sometimes. It's very important to know that because we have to show up day after day after day, trying to improve things. And when things don't look that good, it can get really discouraging, right? And this is just part of it. And you're like spending money, which makes it even worse sometimes. Just know you're only one ad or one offer away from making the ROI that you want to and scaling your ads to the point that you really want to, like exciting results. Number 5, this is about trend lines. Trend lines are more advanced. It's kind of difficult to talk about, to explain. So I'm gonna show you a visual and try to portray to you the power of trend lines. Now, setting up a dashboard like this does take a little bit of an investment. It's usually a few $100s. It's not too much, it's not thousands of dollars. And it will save you thousands of dollars on ads if you really utilize this. But you do have to get one of these set up. So I want to show you, this is one of my clients the last 2 weeks. I think the data platform actually went down this day. This dip is not actually real. So we didn't see that dip on the back end. But the rest of these, swings all around are real. So I want to show, for example, our purchase conversion rate here has been increasing. And the question is, why? I know that I'm testing some new e-commerce landing pages, so maybe those landing pages are improving it, but I have to answer my own question and say, why is that going up? Then, for example, here, the hook, it dipped down pretty hard for these 3 days, but then it started picking up again. what I bet is that my new ads I launched sometime, maybe 2 weeks ago. And so then, ads usually have a little bit of a curve. So I'm seeing the curve down, probably. Another option could be like, did I optimize out an ad that had a really high hook rate that, was actually good for the average here? And then I know that we launched new ads, I think last Tuesday. So then probably the 10th, I don't know what, date this is, but probably this is from the new ads, and we're seeing the curve. Every time you launch new ads, you kind of have this curve of performance with your hook rate. So I would want to go and actually verify all of that and understand what is causing the change in my hook rate. The difference between a 9.77% hook rate and a almost 15%, that's 50% higher traffic coming through to my site for the same price. 50% higher traffic for the same price. This is why when you look at an average that looks normal, 13%, that's kind of normal for this account. They run tons of static images. And then, I see something that's like literally 50% higher at certain times. I've got to understand why so that I can make it 50% higher all the time, right? If this is happening because of, a dip with my ads, I need to launch new ads like here instead of here, so I can avoid that and I can understand that. That's just one example of how this all kind of works. Then we have these link clicks going up and then super stable. So my guess is probably this is spend. Yeah. So we spent more and then, we stabilized the spend there. So that's really interesting. That, pretty much goes in line with link clicks. So sometimes this is funny. You pause something and then the traffic goes down and then there's a freak out like, why did traffic go down? And it's like, well, we had to lower spend. So, but you can see it crystal clear in the trend line. Then let's look at this hump. This is very interesting. I actually don't know what this is. I need to go investigate. So on February 10th, we had a much higher conversion rate, but then it dropped back down. So what I would actually want to do, and again, this is not a real dip. I think that probably the platform that I'm using to connect Meta Ads to Looker Studio, which is what this is, probably it just went down that day. Sometimes it does, the connection. So there's a massive spike that day, and I have no idea what that was. So I need to go and investigate and see what caused my conversion rate to be so much higher that day. It could have just been something in the algorithm, but what if there was an ad that got a lot of volume one day, but then it kind of dropped off? Maybe I can relaunch that ad. There are all kinds of actionable things sitting here in the day-to-day trend line. It doesn't mean that you're going to turn things off and turn things back on. It's not about that. It's about understanding the algorithm and predicting what will happen. So an example that I want to give is link clicks. We're on this very long trajectory down. This is bad. I'm spending less, so it's not as bad as if, I weren't. But let's say I'm not spending less, and let's say that I'm just getting less and less clicks. And let's say that my click-through rate was also trending down. If your click-through rate and your clicks are trending down too many days in a row, the algorithm is going to be like, oh, people aren't responding to these ads as well anymore. We're going to start deprioritizing these ads. And then it's going to make all your other stats start looking worse and worse. So that's an example of being able to catch it beforehand and being able to know what will probably happen. Anytime that your action rates, so, your ad, like your hook rate or your click-through rate, but also, things like your lead conversion rate, or if you're an e-commerce brand, for example, if your add to cart rate starts slowly going down, that will affect your ads. You will start getting deprioritized for the most premium traffic that you could show your ads to. So I encourage you, maybe you're not ready for this yet, but once you are, this is a really, really, really powerful tool to look at day-over-day trend lines for all of your main metrics and start digging in. And when you see the spikes or you see the trend lines down or the trend lines up, you can start going and investigating with purpose, looking at one particular thing, trying to find something within a certain date range. You can really focus in and start improving your ads significantly. So because I can do this, this is one of the main reasons that I can make as much money as I do for my clients, because I can come into their businesses and predict their revenue ahead of time. And I can also predict when things are not going to be going well, and I can avoid that, right? So that's one of the main things I've based my reputation on, and I have tons of referrals coming in all the time because I'm able to do this. So I wanted to share it with you. Hopefully it's helpful. So there you have it. Those are the 5 main things that really changed the game for me as I was building not only my first agency, but now my consultancy on Meta Ads as a product. And I also run Google Ads, but this video is specific to Meta Ads. These are the things that allowed me to charge so much more money, to be so much more consistent with clients, to drive so much higher results, and also consistently. I hope that this really helps you. That's it for today. I'll see you in the next video.